Good morning. I'd like to call the August 1st bid meeting to order. We have acknowledgement of a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from July 11th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Financial report.
Great, the financial report is in your packet. I also have it plugged in here, so I don't know if we can get it on the screen. But otherwise, we didn't have a significant amount of expenses since our last meeting and 3 weeks ago. A bit more in marketing for the downtown marketing campaign, and then additional electricity costs for each month. Those are the only changes.
Any questions?
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, Main Street design enhancements. We have Claire Rolfs, who's going to give us a little presentation or kind of give us a little update on what that topic means. If you want to come up and... Good morning.
Good morning. Is this
Yep, it's
okay?
working.
All good. Okay, first of all, before I go any farther, I want to be very clear that we have no intention of trying to slow down this project in any way, shape, or manner. We recognize how important it is that we get you guys up and running again as soon as possible. However, we are going to look at things we can do to improve on what you've got. And that meeting is going to happen about 11:30 this morning. And I have no idea what's going to come out of it or what the possibilities are. But the bottom line is we have people who are probably willing to spend money on this. And I may be coming back to you to ask for some participation from the bid. And I'm willing to answer any questions that I can, although I don't have a lot of answers.
What you just stated was extremely vague, Claire.
I realize that, Peggy. I got that.
Like, I don't really have any clue. So, like, what are you presenting?
I think we would like to look at things that we can do to improve upon, embellish what's happening downtown, so that we get more than just an infrastructure upgrade. And that's going to be a little bit difficult because we're beyond the point where we can actually do things construction-wise. We probably cannot disrupt the construction plan at all, but it may mean lights in areas. It may mean pots. I don't know the extent of what we can do, but we're going to start looking at it to see what's available and what we can still do.
Who's we?
There is a group of us who would like to think bigger about West Bend and think about potentially the next 25 years. And I'm not trying to be vague, I just don't feel that it's my place to make, it's not a formal group.
Okay.
So it's just, we felt, Jay came to the Community Foundation months ago and basically asked for money for facade grants. And we thought, we'd like to start thinking bigger. We'd start to let's think about West Bend for the next 20, 25 years and what we want to see. Unfortunately, Main Street was already, on track and going, and we couldn't do much about that. But, so now we're in the position where you've got about 3 months left of construction on Main Street. It's been a really hard go for you guys, that's obvious. And what can we do at this point to embellish what you're getting, to make it look more inviting, to make it look more than just an infrastructure upgrade?
So, let's say you make this presentation and it goes over well with the city. I mean, I don't know what kind of commitment you're looking at from the bid. I don't know what kind of commitment we can afford. I mean, I feel like we're at our bottom, financially.
No, absolutely. I think you have a group of willing investors, people who want to invest in West Bend, and we're hoping that you guys feel the same way. And I'm aware that you are looking at potentially adding to your Christmas decorations this year. I don't know what the timetable is on all this, but maybe instead of more Christmas lights this year, maybe we should be looking at something else we could do along Main Street and delay the Christmas lights for another year or two. That's all. Now I'm getting into the weeds, but yeah, that's the kind of thing. We'd like the bid to participate in whatever the private sector decides to do.
Okay.
I mean, if I have to go to people and ask them for a contribution to do Main Street, I need to be able to say the bid is willing to step in as well. And obviously it would be something within your range that you could do. We're not going to ask you to do something that you can't.
The only thing that I would say to that is just realize the bid's already put $256,000 into it.
I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think at this point, we'd like to see things sort of done right. And it may not, it's probably not going to happen all at once. It can't. So it'll be an ongoing process.
Claire, I'd like to thank you guys for what you do for the city. And one project that we've been talking about for quite some time is the lights on the top of the buildings. And we put tens of thousands of dollars into repairing them and planning to replace them. And that's a project that I think should be looked at. And I'd appreciate it if you would.
We're happy to.
Yeah.
Absolutely happy to. I mean, I think our group, we're wide open. We are absolutely wide open to anything that can be done. We have looked at other communities. We're looking at things. We don't want to say we can't do something. We want to say, how can we do it? And what do we have to do to make this happen?
Lights on the bridges would be nice too.
Yes, it would be. I heard those were bad for fish.
Not sure about that.
I'm not either. That's what I was told. So I think what I'd like to see, what I think we'd all like to see is more community engagement. There's no way we want to step in and say, hey, you guys got to do this. This needs to be a community effort. Mm-hmm. And it has to come from the community. So the way to do that is to bring everybody to the table and let's start talking about possibilities.
That's great news.
So
what are your next steps? You're coming here this morning, and then you said you were meeting with the city at 11 or 11:30 this morning?
11:30 this morning, and we're going to look at the plans. We're going to see what still can be done, talk about timelines, that sort of thing.
And then after that meeting, is that something that you're willing to share with the community so the community can either get behind it or
I see no reason
it?
not to share
Okay.
it. I really don't. I mean, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let's open it up. Let's start talking. None of this should be happening behind closed doors and be secretive. I think this is our community. It's not mine. It's not this belongs to everybody. And everybody's going to have to step up and participate. And if they don't want to, I can't force them. But I think that's it. I don't want anybody to feel that they're being left out or not being heard.
Anybody have any other thoughts, questions? Okay, well,
Okay,
why don't we
thanks.
plan on maybe an update at the next meeting? If you depending upon how your
Right. We'll see
meeting
what
goes
happens.
today, and then we can do another agenda item for the next meeting and
Sure.
get an update. But we may have to, with the time frame, depending upon what you come up with, there may be a possibility that we'd have to call a special meeting, and if we have to do that, we could do that.
Well, let's one step at a time.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, guys.
thanks. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, next item is concerns of what's going on with construction, and I have a PowerPoint. I don't know, how does this get put up?
If you have it on your flash drive, I can take it.
I've got it connected.
Oh, there should be a.
I've got it all connected here, so how does it go up on the screen?
Thanks.
There we go.
So
Thank you.
there's been a number of, first off, I want to say that everybody knows that this construction needed to happen. And in general, it's going pretty well, but there's a lot of angst, there's a lot of concern of number of businesses who are really, really struggling. There's some people out there that are telling me, hey, I've had to go get a second job to be able to stay functioning and keep my business alive through this. And there's others that say, you know what, financially I can afford this. I've got enough going on that I can survive and I'll get through it. The issue that I'm seeing, and people are they're talking to me, they're talking to Gina. Jess said, hey, I don't understand why people aren't coming to us. And quite frankly, people aren't coming to you because they're afraid. They've told me they're afraid. There's comments I have in this presentation that they said, I'll let you put these in the presentation, but we don't want anybody to know who we are. We're afraid of being blackballed by the city. And I know that sounds weird, but at the same time, it's reality, and it's what's going on. The other comments are they don't listen to us anyway. So what I did is I solicited comments. I also I spent last week walking around taking a lot of pictures of what's going on and comparing to what we were told was going to happen versus what's happening. And I think the biggest issue when we look at all of this, when we get done, it really comes down to there's a lack of communication. And there's a series in here I'm going to show you that happened yesterday that totally confirmed that. And some of these issues, Jess, you say, hey, why don't you come to me? We're at the kickoff meeting, and Mitch is like, hey, we have a guy down there full-time, talk to him. They'll get things taken care of. And I got to say, the first group of Dorner people were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The second crew that came in was less than anything as far as communication. And the group that's in there now is crazy. They don't care about anything that's going on with the businesses. But last week, I went up, I talked to the foreman about the lack of sidewalks and really difficult time for people to get around, nothing. I talked to Jerry, nothing. And his comment to me was, I try, and they're not listening to me. That was the conversation yesterday. And ultimately, he did get some things done because I got really, really upset. And he did come through and he got it done, but it took a lot. And I walked up to him in a phone conversation and he's like, I've told these guys for the last 3 days to do this and they're not doing it. So his hands are tied too. I actually called Max last week and left a message for him to call me back. I never heard back. So people, I think, are reaching out. We're not necessarily getting what we need to get back. But here's kind of a little walk down Main Street of what's going on. And here's a picture from somebody's store. They walked into their business in the morning, and here's what the store looked like from all the vibration and rattling. Now, I realize that's part of the project, but there also needs to be some communication that some of this stuff is going to be happening, and we need to be prepared. They're talking about they're having to spend more money cleaning and keeping their businesses open and looking presentable. But, I mean, a small business can't afford that kind of inventory loss. That's just like having shoplifting. And I know people have heard me when they were doing the Riverwalk talking about how we've had crystal vibrated off of our shelves, and it was always kind of like joked about and laughed about. Here's comments that people have made. No signage to help customers find our store or parking. The bid put money into signage, and I brought it up at a meeting is let's get signage to tell people once they get to 6th Avenue, where do they go? They get to Veterans, where do they go? There's nothing that really does that. And the signs that we have are pretty much gone and blown away. I don't see why we can't have some type of better signage along 7th Avenue, Veterans, wherever to get people in. There's times when the construction crews are putting, sidewalks are closed with no notice so that people have no idea. They're telling their customers where to go, and then they come to work. the next morning after they told the customer where to go, and now it's all tore up and gone because they didn't know anything was going to happen. And now their customer can't find them. There's holes and stuff where there's no planks that are coming into the store. And I'm going to talk about what happened yesterday personally with me, and I saw it with a bunch of other businesses. The gravel is, you can't walk. The only place you can walk down there is the middle of the street. And when they're under construction, who wants to be fighting a Michigan loader as they're going up and down, north and south? And, the customers are trying to navigate what's going on. Numerous customers, I've had the same thing. If I didn't have a majority of my business didn't come from outside of Washington County, I'd be in deep trouble because my local people are not coming in. They know what's going on down there. They don't necessarily want to shop. But here's an example. On 7-5, the Main Street project update, sidewalks will be replaced with crushed gravel rolled to allow for pedestrian access. Same comment on 7-12. 7-19, exact same comment. 7-26 says sidewalks have been replaced with crushed gravel and rolled to accommodate for pedestrians. Tell me this is rolled. This starts at the north end of Main Street. Here's the entrance to Andy's Boutique, BMO Harris, Expressions. There's absolutely no way people can get into these businesses without potentially falling and getting hurt. This is in front of Client First. Yeah, they can get there, but look at the holes. You tell me that's rolled sidewalk? It's not. It's rolling up and down. There's undulations that people have to walk over. This is in front of 155 North. Here's in front of the popcorn store. The transition from the Marth building onto Centrum, it's like a 2-foot drop for somebody to walk over. Think about our customers who may be elderly or walking with canes or have a difficult time walking, and this is what they're having to walk over. In front of my store, I got sand. It's like, we're going to the beach and all the undulations of it. We keep walking down. It's a little better in this picture in front of Shooting Star, in front of Centrum, but it's very isolated. Then you get down to Augustine Financial, same thing. Look at that little entryway for someone to try to walk into. It's just a tiny little area. They got equipment being left on this is what I think everybody kind of expected to see. But then we get down in front of Tennis, and what do you have? There's no sidewalk. There's nothing that's taking them over that transition. They got to try to walk to the left to get out. Now here, if she was open, God forbid anybody try to get into her business and then walk along the street, it can't be done. Here's in front of the Casa Tequila. And then we say, hey, park in these parking lots and let's walk across the street. I missed one. Let's go back. Here's the crosswalk at Walnut and Main. Even if I got onto the crosswalk, when I get partially across, I got signs going across the walkway. I can't even get there. And then once I get there, I come around a corner, and now how do Tony's people who are parking in Walnut even get in? And then we got the sidewalk closed, but where do we go? It's a fright. This was yesterday morning. From Sal's Pizza down to my store at 9:30 in the morning, there was absolutely no way anybody could get in or out of the businesses in the morning yesterday. Absolutely no way. When I asked them about putting a steel plates or some plywood down, I was told, first off, it's not my problem. I'm a sub. And they sent me off to find Jerry. I found Jerry. He was frustrated with the whole situation. Then I was told it was Steiner's problem. Then I was told there's no money in the budget to plate it or put planks down to do anything. They literally had my building closed with a machine at 9:30 in the morning. And I had customers inside trying to get out and customers outside trying to get in, and they couldn't do either. I got my parking lot in the back of my building. They'd come up the hill or come up the steps, and this is what they found. They couldn't even get across it because there was no concern, there was no communication, there was nothing. So all of us are trying, and I think it's great. You know, Claire's group wants to put more money into downtown. They want to do stuff. But if we don't have businesses, it doesn't matter. And I think there's a lot of people teetering on the edge here. And I got to say, what I'm really disappointed in from the city perspective is another really resounding comment I've heard is, I haven't seen the city administrator. I haven't seen the mayor. I haven't seen the new assistant city administrator coming in and saying, hey, how's it going? What can we help you with? People just want to feel like their feelings and their concerns are being met. And that's all we're asking for. We know it has to be done. We know it's going to be fabulous when it's done. But we just need communication. I look at what happened in front of my store yesterday, and my biggest concern to Jerry, and you can ask him, anybody can ask him if I said it, is this is fine. We got through my problem today, but what about everybody else up and down the street? What are we going to do to ensure that this doesn't happen to everybody else? And that's all I'm really looking for, and I think that's all everybody else is looking for. So what we're looking for so we can survive is just do what we were promised. Better communication from the city and the contractors. Get us some crushed gravel so people can walk along the buildings and get that up, and work with us, not against us. Let us put up signage. You can control it. There's a way to do it. And visit our stores and come and see what we really need and find out what's going on down there. And let's ramp up the social media so we can get some more information going on. And let's maintain the signage and stuff we do have so it's not blown away. And we'll survive, and we're all going to come out of this stronger. But just please come to the table and work with us and help us, because we really feel like we're on an island right now.
Can I speak, Mike?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for having me and being able to provide you guys some additional information. So I actually was downtown when you were speaking with that contractor, that subcontractor. So I apologize for what had happened there and the miscommunication that had happened as well. With regards to how we got to this point, there is a subcontractor out there to one of our contractors, and we have been having some issues with them on the job site. Max and I were both out there yesterday to speak with them, to talk to them about communicating with each of the businesses out there. So hopefully we are going to get to a place that will be better communicating moving forward. I've talked with the general contractor, with Dorner. Todd Dorner and I met out there yesterday afternoon to walk the job site, to take a look at the concerns that you have with regards to access to buildings, whether it's an appropriate surface for people to be walking down, looking at the compaction that the contractor that's out there right now, that what they're doing. So we are looking at trying to address these things. And again, I apologize that we're at this point. I know that and you had mentioned it earlier, that our first line of defense, I guess, or if there's issues out there, is to talk to Jerry on site. Even though Jerry's out there and he's got his hands full at times, one of the other things I also said, I'm the next line of defense. So I can get things done, I can make those calls. So if there are things, whether you want to call and talk with Max, that's fine. But I would ask that you actually do call me. And my phone really honestly has been silent from whether it's business owners or any of you that might be concerned about some of the activities that are happening out there. But that being said, we do want to make those repairs, or take care of those issues that you're looking at. So I will definitely, I'm glad that you're providing us this information at this point in time. I do have to say, one of the items that you brought up was the vibration that's happening out there. Unfortunately, that's a part of construction, and I think we all know that. But with that being said, with the contractors that are out there today and moving forward, that work with the vibrating machine should be completed by the end of this week. That should be done with. We'll be moving forward with doing some concrete work towards the end of the week, so you'll see the concrete contractor mobilized on the north end of the project. And as they move to the south, we're looking at trying to take us about down to 6th Avenue, doing that work for concrete. They're going to jump back, start doing the flat work, which means the sidewalks and everything should be starting to get installed on that north portion. Once we get that portion kind of completed, we will move to the south and continue with that same type of work. The rest of the work that still needs to be done too is the placement of the light poles, the EV charging station area, pulling all the electrical work and everything like that as well. So I think you're going to see some greater improvements over the next, obviously over the next month, but I want to make those other improvements as well, the areas that we won't be touching for a little while, on the south portion as well. So I'll talk with Dorner. We'll try to get a crew out there to address the access issues that you're seeing. So I think that is one of the major things that I'm seeing out there at this point in time. I'm here as well, so if you guys have other questions, I want you to bring them up, and please feel free to ask those questions.
I know Gina wanted to say a few things. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she does. She did yesterday.
No, I just wanted to say.
Come up to the microphone, please.
I just wanted to say that I do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I really do. The street, it is what it is. We are in a construction zone. I talk to several folks every single day. First, I'd like to say the city is always available. You can always call the city, and I do say that usually when I get the phone calls. Some of the things that I noticed personally just walking around downtown, Thursday, I believe it was, I almost fell into a sewer. So there was like no cones, no nothing. Like even if we could get like the little electrical flags out there, something to indicate there is a hole here. Because if you don't have a sidewalk, you do have to walk down the center of the street. And by doing that, I literally almost fell in. Some of the other concerns are just if in the beginning when we discussed this, we had talked about putting up plank boards so people could get into their streets. I'm just wondering whatever happened to that idea and why we are not utilizing any kind of boards in front of the larger entryways.
I don't know if we talked about necessarily putting boards down. We may be utilizing that moving forward to try to provide access, but we had talked about areas, providing areas for crosswalks across the street so it was safe during construction. So that's another item that I will be talking to the contractor for, because that's actually a bid item that they should be maintaining and providing. So, and that's not visible at this point in time.
And the crosswalks are great as long as they've got some area to walk on along the buildings,
right,
i.e. some semblance of a sidewalk. If we don't have it, you don't need the crosswalk because they're just walking down the middle of the street.
Right.
And I think we all understand it's hard. It's construction. We all have probably had a driveway put into our home. It's a hard time to get around, but we just need that communication to know what's going on. I believe the Wednesday line is still open, correct?
It is.
Okay, last time I called it, I got radio, like a radio announcement.
Yeah, we still host a weekly call on Wednesday, every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock. It's posted online. And then we also send out an e-blast with
So is it if nobody answers,
a
then
recap.
it just goes to the radio, or? Because I called in and I just got like a music.
Yep. So you may just get music if the call is over. So the calls are usually 5 minutes or less. They,
Okay.
you know, it's an
It was
opportunity
great,
to
yeah.
ask questions and raise concerns on a weekly basis. And
Yeah, and I just didn't know, so that's another thing to remember, that it is open every Wednesday at 3 p.m. to call in and get that. And then, yeah, I think everything else has been good. I do hear a lot from the men and women in the retail area that the construction guys have been incredibly nice and pleasant. So they've all been assisting them. We've got some fun stories about them helping them carry in stuff. So that side of it's been good. It's just dangerous for our customers. Sure. And just watching out so that nobody really gets hurt down there. Like I said, Mike alluded to, as people have said, I'm getting a second job because I can't pay my rent because people can't get into the store. So, thank you.
Anybody else up here want to?
Yeah, quick question for Mitch. You mentioned that the flat work will be starting soon at the north end. So when they're doing the flat work, putting in the sidewalk, how long is the sidewalk closed from the start of the pour until they can, in other words, places that need that sidewalk, how long do they plan for that to be unavailable during the construction?
So let me first start with, once they get the curb and gutter in, then they'll start that work. So once that curb and gutter is in, they'll be working on the back side of that curb and gutter, grading, completely flattening out those areas, anticipating for that additional 4 inches of concrete that we're going to be placing from the curb to the buildings. Actually, as they're doing that cleanup work and grading that on the backside of the curb, you'll probably have better access at that point than you obviously do have at this point in time. Once that concrete is poured, it's really honestly, we would like to see it, nobody going on it for a day, but it will probably harden where you could probably walk on it within like an 8-hour period of time. So they will be blocking off those areas that we don't want anyone accessing. We'll be communicating with you on when that time comes, giving you at least a 24-hour notice saying we're going to be working in front, pouring the concrete, so you won't have access for the next day or whatever it might end up being.
So what do you propose hearing that? That sounds like, okay, we're going to close your store for a day. How do we work with that?
I mean, I guess I can talk with the contractor to see if there's a way that we can provide earlier access to your building. I'm not sure. There's different mix designs we can do with the concrete to have it set up quicker, but I'm not sure that that's something that they had anticipated. I'd have to see what their means and methods are, because we don't dictate some of those means and methods to them. And if we do, that ends up changing the scope of work that they're providing for us.
We could look at partial floors too, like
Yeah.
half the door and then the next one.
Yeah, and what we could do, like Max was just mentioning, is doing if there's a wide enough area or several entrances to a building, we could do like a partial pour in front of one of them, leaving access to the other door, or if it's a larger door, we could probably pour half and then provide access for the other. If they're willing to plate, I have heard them talking about possibly plating some of the entrance areas, so I'll talk with them and confirm on that as well.
So my only hope with that is that there's going to be some really strong communication with the individual businesses when this happens, so that they know, they can tell their customers, or they know that, hey, I got to take the day off, or I got to do something different. Not all of a sudden they show up in the morning and they find out that they're going to be shut down that day. And I would hope we could do even more than 24 hours. I realize, it's fluid and things are changing, but we just need to, think about it. If I look at it this way, if I said to you, Mitch, you can come into work today, but we're not going to pay you. You're not going to get access to work, so you won't get paid today. That's what's happening with every one of these people, is when we don't have access, we don't get paid, our employees don't get paid. It's a whole trickle down, and it affects more than just the couple people sitting in this room or the building owners or whatever. It affects a lot of people. So we just need to make sure that we communicate this very, very well.
Yep, absolutely.
I certainly don't want to sound redundant. I support every single word you just spoke. If I'd have known a little bit better, I'd have been better prepared. I've just shut up. I don't complain to anybody more because it's pointless. That's been my experience. And I actually have a full-time building manager that deals with this every day, so I probably have more advantages than most of you. I think he's out there constantly trying to find out what's going on. In my case, my clients are generally booked anywhere from a week to a month out. So the hard to move ones, the disabled, the elderly, it's a real challenge. As it was well said, we can be told something and the next day it's different. It's hard to tell these folks to adjust. You obviously can't design a plan just for my calendar issues, but the communication has been non-existent. Anything that I'm told doesn't happen. It usually takes longer. It doesn't seem like people care. And I'm not talking about you guys. Just the contractors could do a better job of contract. They could just communicate better. If there's one common theme I've heard is, you got to keep us in the loop. As far as this plank access, I guarantee you, I was in all those meetings. It was definitely discussed it would be provided. What I recall is when the concrete gets poured, there could be a day where you have limited access. And I've told all my tenants that. We're waiting for that notification of when that's going to happen. The sidewalks are not passable. Day to day, it's different. Every single day, it's literally different. I'm going to whine about the south side because the south side seemed to be the place you started. And now it sounds like it's going to be the last place you're going to go for sidewalks. And the ends, I'm not sure what you experience on the north end, is a parking lot every day. There's equipment everywhere. It's kind of like, okay, we're done down there, so we're going to park all our crap down there, put all this stuff down there, literally in front of my door. I mean, my clients can't walk around construction equipment with walkers. I've shut up. I've not said anything, which is not me. But at some point, it's pointless. In the very beginning of this project, I made one phone call and mentioned 2 items. Even my building manager would say, Tony, as soon as you did that, you just were treated like shit with how they handled your stuff out front. You just became kind of the complainer. I was like, my God, one was Dorner's truck himself was sitting in the disabled parking spot that you put out there. It's like, dude, you should probably be aware that's for the disabled. And my second request is, can you not put your outdoor urinal in the front door of my building? That's all. And from that point forward, it was like, I ended up getting treated like shit. Excuse my French. So it just became pointless. So got to communicate better. It's real simple.
To go back with some of the comments that you had said, so one, I apologize if that's how you felt. Again, one thing, if you have older, I've taken phone calls. I actually have taken, there was 2 times I was called by a young lady at one of the businesses saying that she had an older client coming in, and we had coordinated with her when that was going to happen to provide access right up to the front door and then have them leave. So if that's still something that you need.
There's a lot of that going on, though. Am I supposed to tell you that every day? I mean, I have a law firm upstairs yesterday on Monday, had 13 separate appointments. We were told this is going to all get crushed up and torn up. It'll be fine. It wasn't. So at some point, it's like, if you're going to tell me something, let me expect and count on it. We'll call clients the night before and say, you know what, better reschedule. What they said isn't happening. So that might work for someone, but it doesn't work for us who has constant. I probably every day, just in my structure, between 3 different professional firms, have over 50 people coming in and out. That's just not practical, Mitch. It's just not.
Sure.
Remember when you called me and said they're going to tear up the, right? It was a month and a half later.
They changed their schedule. And
I surrender. It's like, whatever.
And I understand that. And so that was the other point I was going to make. So the reason why the staging changed from them starting on the south and then going to the north and now working from the north-south is really honestly due to the utility company and them doing their work and being in the way at certain times. So they were still doing their work on that south portion where we had to start our excavation on the north end and work our way south. So that basically, that area is ready for them to start the concrete work, and that is why we're moving to the south, and that changed the staging of the project.
Which tells me likely that as you're doing concrete work from the north, we're going to be the staging again. I mean, there's dump truck loads dumped every day. It's right in front of my door. It's like,
that shouldn't be the case anymore because all the material that will be brought on site for concrete work obviously is brought by truck. So There shouldn't be piles of stone. There might be some final grading and stuff like that that's happening, but that should be in the areas that they're actually doing the work. So hopefully it's not staged. We can talk about that with our contractor. We do have a construction meeting tomorrow that will bring up all these items and concerns that you guys have today.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, and sorry I dumped on you because I kept this kind of secret of what was going to be discussed, but it's, I know we can get through it. We just got to work together.
Well, and I do appreciate it, to be honest with you, because I do need to communicate this stuff with the contractor. So not knowing that it's happening at the time, that's, so communication goes both ways. That's all I ask. So feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to something a little more fun. Holiday decorations. Jess is leaving me. Oh.
All right, let me just plug in here. We actually have two presentations, one from Don and then another one from David J. Frank, and I can come up and talk through his slides that he provided in advance, but we can start with you. No, you're fine. And then if you just want to hit the down arrow.
So a little preface to this. We had
Thank you.
a very short, I don't even know what it was called from a meeting standpoint on Friday to just kind of go over the proposals that came in and some ideas that we felt were needed. There was 4 of us, I think, in the meeting. And that's how we've come to where we are today as far as what was kind of talked about and what needs to happen or what we're thinking about. So good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having Mosca back again. We appreciate it. So I'll go right into it. I put some different garland options and some different walkthroughs. The one that you guys had chosen, we would gladly make a CAD drawing similar to that. It takes about a week to get the specs and do all of that. So if there's nothing on these 2 slides that you guys like, let us know. We would also love to send samples of our wreaths. We have the side-mounted wreaths. We have the center-mounted wreaths. They come with a vinyl bow. We can throw in, I did bring a sample of one of our other bows. We just have so many options because everything is made to order. Depending on what your guys' budget is, I know we've not really talked about that. I went in with the side mount and the center mount for the wreaths because there's a difference, a big difference in pricing there. Depending on with your garlands, I did bring a sample of our pole wrap garland. It's a 12-inch diameter. We prefer using 14-inch if it has to do with lighting your guys' bridge. But you can do mini lights. I prefer the C7 LEDs. We do 3 per foot because if one goes out, you simply change that bulb out. They are warranted for 3 years. They don't go out for many, many years. But the mini lights, if part of that goes out, there's an issue there after a couple of years. Our commercial grade garland that has the C7s will last 9+ years easily. We warranty that for 5 years. So basically just what your budget is and what you're going for. I did include some of our garland that does have the mini lights. It's a beautiful garland, but again, for longevity and what you're looking for, those are some options for you to have. I have pricing in there. Again, with the walkthroughs, the ornaments, the possibilities are endless, honestly. If you say, we love this one, but we want to take a part of this one, we can make it. Our current production times now say that you decide on something within 2 weeks. It takes about a week to get a CAD drawing if you don't see anything that you like here. Once we go to production, we're at about the end of October, beginning of November for these pieces. For our wreaths and whatnot, you're talking about 8 weeks production.
So just as a little clarity, and those of you that were in the meeting, just make sure I'm saying this right. There was discussion of putting wreaths on the, there's 150 light poles downtown, including the Riverwalk. So there was discussion of putting wreaths on those 150 poles, or some combination there of the 150. And then there's also conversation of putting lights and potentially the garland swags on the bridges. And then we were going to look at the group of individuals who have donated up to this point for what we have, going back to them and potentially getting the walkthrough and a couple other things. So the bid would be looking at the wreaths and the swag on the bridges to start with. And when we talk 150 poles, Jess, I think that included the Riverwalk and veterans as well, correct? So it's kind of encompassing that whole, the 6th Avenue, everything. So it would be the entire downtown area, and they would be lighted. And we're talking about the wreaths because we found over the last 5-6 years doing the wraps on the poles, everybody puts them up a little different. The bows last about 30 seconds. And so we're thinking with the wreath, with the flagpole brackets, it would be easier to be able to install them, just put them in, plug them in. That's what our hope is anyway. You can tell us if that's possible.
So we do not recommend that. All of our hardware does come with it, and it's actually the backbone is built into the side mounts just because they will withstand high volumes of wind. It'll be a faceplate, a stainless steel faceplate that comes with it with 3 worm screw bands, and then you just slip that back pole in there. So it's easy for installation. Unfortunately, we do not install.
So the first go around, we got to install those faceplates.
Yes, and it's very easy.
Okay. That's similar to using the flagpole things.
Yes, we just,
Other than we'd probably want them black instead of silver looking with our brand new light poles. We'd have to see if they would fit on the light pole, so that would be a potential.
sure, and we could definitely send a sample of whatever wreath that you chose along with a powder-coated black faceplate.
Okay. And then that was the other conversation of, we have your company and we have David J. Frank. And so it was like, if we're going to do the wreaths, let's get the 2 competing bids up here and let's actually look at them and see what the difference is. And then go from there.
And again, if there's anything you need different, we custom make them. So, and they are made with cold rolled steel, so they do last a very long time. But I wasn't sure which ones. We do more lamps in ours than the normal 3-footer. But if you wanted 3.5, 4, whatever, we can make it.
With the faceplate and everything, how much would you guess it weighs?
The faceplate itself, just a couple. Oh, the
Like the whole-
complete. The side-mounted ones with the faceplate, I would say 21, and then I would say about 11 pounds, 12 pounds, just for the center-mounted wreaths. Because that's a bow clip. It's not going to have a faceplate for that.
What is the height of the wreath on the telephone pole?
So the wreath would be at the, probably at the top. I'm trying to look around a pole.
The higher up you go, the harder it is to put up there because you need a taller ladder. Unless people
Yeah, well, the light poles, we can only go so high because we can't go above the lamp itself. So it would be below the light, kind of where the banner poles are.
Are you going to put flag poles on the light poles also?
Yes.
Interfere with the bracket.
Well, that's what we have to figure out. The light that's going on Main Street is the exact same light that's on the Riverwalk, I believe. Jay or Mark, can you confirm that? The light pole that we did on Main Street is the same. It's on the Riverwalk, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, the 6th Avenue ones are the same ones that will be there,
6th Avenue is what we currently have. Yeah, and then the new lights are what's on the Riverwalk. So
flag holders,
Yeah. Any other questions?
What's the diameter of those wreaths?
The ones that I showed up there are 3 footers.
3 feet?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And she has garland, if anybody, is that this, that would be what would go on the bridge?
So this is a 12-inch. The bridge, we would recommend a 14-inch, but this is what I had for short notice at the house.
Okay, so we can look at that after the fact.
Yeah. All right. And all of these presentations have pricing and such too, so we can dive into that if you'd like. These are the slides that Chadwick from David J. Frank provided, and I can walk through them here. So this is a 14-foot ornament, a walk-through ornament. We had discussed in our small group meeting last week about having an ornament like this or a walk-through in Pocket Park. So that's $37,000. And there's this piece, a little simpler. It's 16.5 feet for $16,000. And then he included some pricing on some north end circle decor. We had talked a little bit about maybe just having like a year's worth of some trees or decorations in there, because at least this first year it'll be in between when maybe a sculpture is going to be going in. So there may be some opportunity to put some lights in there for now. So there's some trees priced out. And then additional Veterans Park, some trees wrapped with twinkle lights, and the cost to wrap them, install, and remove them. So it's about $3,200. And then 2 white bridges wrapped with garland and twinkle lights is estimated at $3,168. That does not include the installation cost of $70 an hour with a 2-person crew. Those details are there. And then Chadwick included street light wreaths. I did provide both Don and Chadwick with the sample pictures of what we had talked about the other day with the wreaths on the poles. So his cost would be for 300 wreaths to do 2 on each pole, $29,500. Installation between $9,000 and $10,000. The wreaths alone were $19,000. These are the same size wreaths as Don as well, 36 inches. These weigh approximately 8 pounds. So this is what was provided by Chadwick. Happy to provide him with any feedback that you have, further questions. If we have another sort of holiday decorations group meeting, we could have them come in. We're open to suggestions or ideas. And just a note on what you have available in the budget. You do have $30,000, a little bit more, but approximately that in your fund balance. And the remaining for 2022, I planned for approximately $7,000 for the install of what we have currently, but then you would have an additional $22,000 remaining in lights and contingency, and then the fund for future projects. So all in all, you approximately have $50,000, 52.
So, kind of with the interest of time, because we had a hearing their time schedule, and knowing that this all has to be up by November 2nd, well, November 1st probably. One of the things we've done in the past, and there's the committee that kind of informally came together, is myself, Larry, Peggy, Tracy was there, Jay, Jess. My proposal would be to the group would be to vote on and allocate X amount of dollars that that group can spend. And then in the next week, we can vet through the wreaths and everything else. And I can also work with the outside group. I was given a text last night that said I will call you this week. And see what we can come up with and get it done. But I don't think we're going to have the time if we stall and wait until the next meeting to try to get things ordered, we're just not going to get it done. So, and we've done this in the past, so it's not necessarily an issue. It's what you guys are comfortable with. So like Jess said, we have approximately $50,000 that could be spent. I don't think that we need to do that. I'm thinking it's probably more like 30 to do the wreaths and what the bid would be responsible for. Does that seem about right, Jess, do you think? I think it depends upon whose wreath we end up with, because there was some definite difference in price.
And the walk-through ornament, if that was something you wanted to invest in, there's a pretty wide range in the cost for those as well. So, and the bridges.
And I was hoping to get some outside.
As the bid, we're looking at the bridges and basically wreaths, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Not any of the
Well,
big
the
items.
other thing, yeah, the other one would be is if we wanted, there was a proposal on the table also, which we didn't talk about in that meeting, was the something for pictures. You know, like the sleigh, doing something around the sleigh or whatever. That would be so that when people are taking pictures, it would say, you know, downtown West Bend or something to that effect. So I think that would be added to that. But yeah, it would be the wreaths on the poles, the bridges, and then do the sleigh or whatever we decide we want to do up on the park from a family photo kind of thing. Be in under the covered area in front of the tree or wherever it is. I'm not exactly sure. There was a couple of those in there, and we kind of laser focused on the wreaths and the bridge, and that was it. But I think we need to bring that back because I think that's an important component.
Well, we'll probably have to prioritize.
Well, that's
yeah.
my point is we come up with, this group comes up with the dollars, and then not to exceed, and then we go back to that committee
Okay.
and make the final decision.
Where was this 50 grand you're talking about?
So you got 30,000 left in your undesignated fund balance. You have 10,000 in fund for future projects that would have gone up into that undesignated fund, so there's 40. And you have lights and decorations.
That's an annual budget expense.
Some additional remaining after the install.
After the install, so you'll have probably another 5 out of there, so it's about 45, not 50.
So removal comes out of next year's budget? Is that?
Setup goes into this year's, removal goes into next year's.
So you need a proposal for
A number.
the not to exceed?
Yep.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to go over $30,000. You know, I mean,
I'd like to take it to, just to give us some flexibility, go to 35, but know that we
I
want
was
to stay
thinking
at
25 and going up to 30.
30. And I was thinking
So-
35 and going up to 30, only because of the wreaths. Depending upon where we end up with the wreaths, kind of knowing what the cost difference is, and we're going to have to look at them, we're going to have to decide. And I don't want to be, all of a sudden we're stuck and then we can't do, it's kind of what we talked about in the meeting of, you know, if it's going to be 10 or 15% more and we get that much better, you know, to give us a little flexibility. But I think the group is conservative enough that we're not going to go crazy, but give us the ability to if we have to.
Does that include the labor?
What?
Would that include labor? Installation?
David J. Franks includes the labor. So for the wreaths, it's $29,500 for install and the wreaths.
But also, yeah, I know that we did the polls last year with city labor and volunteers, so it's coming down that becomes the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll make a proposal that we set aside no more than $30,000 to accomplish what we're talking about today.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any thoughts on taking it to 35? Knowing that we got 29 just for the wreaths? You're not going to get your bridges.
Mike, I'd say that that would be a good reason to call a special meeting. We could, as I understand, we could do either a special bid board meeting if we needed to exceed the 30,000, or we could do a telephonic meeting through a con call or something like that. Is it correct, Jess?
Yeah, we can, with a 24-hour notice, we can call a meeting. As long as people are willing to, as long as we get a quorum, that's the biggest thing, if everybody's available.
As long as the quorum's available, yes.
That's the only,
Just give
That's
us
why-
more than 24 hours.
well, that's the problem. We may not have, we may be in a meeting and go, okay, we got to do this, and we need an answer tomorrow. So that's why I'm saying, let's go over a little, and then we can always come back.
Jess, how much was the install and garland for David J. Frank on the bridges?
All right, so the garland with twinkle lights was for 2 bridges. The cost was $3,168 plus $70 per hour for a 2-person crew. So that would be per staff member, so $140 an hour. And they thought it would take about 3 hours per crew. So, yeah, it says that would be $420 for install on each bridge. So
just as a high
$4,500.
bid, if we chose David J. Frank, not that we are, but if we did, we're at 35, and
You're
we have the bridges
40,
and
yeah.
we have the wreaths.
Yeah, right. Yep, so if you had 35,000 and you did both of those things, you would be fine.
And it's not to say we can't cut some of the wreaths out, but that's, I'm saying just give us the flexibility to do it.
Take a vote. I mean,
Okay?
is it
He
that
called the vote. Let's
difficult?
go.
If
We have
30
a-
doesn't cover it, is it that difficult to just call another meeting? Or do you want to just put it at 35 and assume that we're not going to spend it all?
That's my feelings. Let's
All right.
give the,
I'll
so
change
then-
my proposal
so
to
then you need to- you need
35,000
to
and we'll take it from there.
you either need to rescind it, the two of you need to rescind it, or we need to vote it down and then redo it.
I would accept accept an amendment to
Yeah, I have no
35,000.
objection to withdrawing my proposal
So you want to amend your
to 35,000
Okay.
maximum.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to spend up to, not to exceed 35,000 on Christmas decorations. Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We're going to set a time for another.
Yeah, we can get together
Committee
at the
meeting.
end here. I think that's it. Just, grand opening celebration. I was, when I put this on the agenda, for some stupid reason, I thought the marketing meeting was this morning. So really don't have an update other than there's conversation going on, and that's where we're at.
Are we getting Aerosmith?
Aerosmith. Jeez, you're showing your age. I was thinking Pink. So that was my mistake in putting that on the agenda, because I really thought the marketing meeting was this morning. In fact, I texted Jess yesterday and said, "Where's the agenda?" We'll have some more info on that after the meeting next week. So if there's any items you want on the agenda for the next meeting, let Jess or I know, and if that's it. I'll make a motion, accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
All right.
Thanks, everybody.